Hello, Jeff Zwerenk here. Welcome to our discussion. As I spend time out on the internet dealing with Twitter and talking to people and following various arguments, one thing that often comes up is this claim that you need to show me the evidence. And often what I find is when you put out a piece of evidence, people go, that's not evidence, it doesn't count. And so I'm excited today because we got Dr. Darren Williams. He's a professor of chemistry at Sam Houston State University. And we're just going to talk about that question. What actually counts as evidence? Darren, it's good to have you here today.
It's great to be here.
So let's kind of just delve into that a little bit. You do have this sense that what counts as evidence for me doesn't always count as evidence for people. So is there an objective way to define evidence, or how do we look at this challenge to provide the evidence, if you will?
Yes, I think that's a great place to start in any conversation, especially when you're dealing with these topics. And it's great to go to the crime shows. Everybody loves a good crime show. I teach forensic chemistry at Sam Houston State, and we talk about the courtroom all of the time and what counts as evidence. And not everything is scientific evidence.
Okay.
A lot of times people set that as the only evidence that they want to consider, but that's not the way the world works. We have historical documentation, we have personal testimony, eyewitness testimony. We also even have personal experience and expert witnesses.
So I could see where at some level that all counts as evidence, but does all of that carry the same weight? Or if I come in and I say, hey, this is what I see, this is what I think, I could just be outright lying. Whereas,
exactly.
I found a ball in a photograph. It seems like there's different level of evidence there.
There is, but in a court of law, then those witnesses, if you will, would be challenged. You wouldn't bring in an arsonist to talk about DNA profiling.
Okay.
And so you would look at, is this person reliable in their testimony? And so not everything is just scientific.
Okay.
You have other kinds of expert testimony that you would bring in and actually lend credence to.
So if you had somebody, for example, if you're talking about, hey, what does this mean, if you will, having a theologian or a philosopher or even a historian who studies linguistics or something, they're weighing in and saying, hey, this is what this means. That counts pretty strong as evidence,
really
even
does.
though it's not scientific evidence, if you will.
Exactly. And so I think that's a good thing to point out to somebody who seems to have set their filter to the setting of only letting science through. If you're in a discussion with someone, you say, look, we could talk to archaeologists, we could talk to historians, we could talk to theologians.
So it kind of gets, it seems like at some level you're having to talk what counts as evidence, or what is evidence to the person, and seeing whether they really accept things as evidence, but then also recognizing that there are a pretty broad set of what counts as evidence, and on the other, kind of going along with that, you don't really get the choice to throw out certain kinds of evidence, if you will.
Right. You're going to make your own subjective decision on what compels you, but I think it doesn't make a lot of sense to just say, no, I'll only accept scientific evidence. We don't run our lives that way. We don't do that in a court of law, and we don't do that, when we go across the street to a sketchy looking restaurant.
So kind of, that's fair. So from the perspective of you're dealing with someone who says, okay, show me the evidence, and you do put some evidence out there that you think is interesting or compelling.
Yes.
When they come back and just respond, that doesn't count because of this, that, or the other, how do you respond, and what have you found effective in kind of moving the conversation forward from this is what I like, this is what you like type thing?
Yeah, I would just sort of drop it back down to the sources and discuss why they think the way they do, and try to get them to self-reflect. Am I setting the bar so high here because I don't want to deal with the conclusions that are coming if I accept that? And so I really just talk about why it is the person is setting the bar in this area differently than they might be setting it in other areas of their life. And one of those things is giving credence to what I would say experts in different fields. We talked about the arsonist not being asked about DNA evidence, and it's bothersome nowadays too to hear physicists who have PhDs in physics, very challenging degrees, making claims and statements in the theological arena. If you have a theological question, maybe you should go to a theologian, not to a physicist. Now that cuts both ways. I'm a chemist. And so, but if you were to ask me a theological question, I would give you my opinion on it, but I would also hand you over to someone like Ken Samples.
So as a Christian who wants to engage these, how should I equip myself? What would you recommend to the Christian or not, someone who wants to be equipped to be able to talk well about the evidence, but recognize they can't be an expert in everything?
I think in today's world, that's much easier because we do have YouTube. We have experts that we can point to with videos. And so it's very simple. I can give somebody the theological nuggets that I've learned and then hand them off and say, here, backing up the reason I believe what I just said to you is because of this person's input. And I can give them links to that video that they can chew on later, or even more rigorous would be an academic paper or a book on the topic. But we have a lot at our disposal now with the internet and the ability to search and find experts in various fields that we can consult.